Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. Before we get started, I just wanted to say this episode is kind of sensitive. Um, we go over a lot of stuff. I think it's important to hear her story. Um, I've heard a lot of stories like these before in the military, but I think it's going to invoke a lot of emotions in some people. You may feel a certain way about it, but I believe to progress in this life, that my whole project here is to just you know, get stories from people and their experiences in the military. So that's really what I'm after here. You may feel a certain way about it, but number one, you don't have to listen. But number two, I think it helps better people when they hear those different stories. So really listen and try to understand where she's coming from. And, you know, just please enjoy the podcast and try to keep an open mind, okay? Thank you guys for listening. Here we go. Brynn was in the army, and she's kind of just gonna really go over, her process through getting in, going through her time in, and then after getting out and stuff, what life was like. So, Brynn, um, thank you for coming on. Um, let's just hop right in. So, tell me a little about yourself. Where you're from, and kind of what led you in those early years. You think to actually joining.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Colorado, Aurora area, um, representing the 303. And every time, I say, "Oh, I'm from Colorado," everyone's like, "Oh, how's the weed?" I'm like, I don't smoke, man. That's not my get.
Yeah.
Um, and honestly, I always wanted to join the service. I knew that I didn't want to do anything with aviation, so Air Force is out. Um, should have joined the chair force, right? That's what we all say when we join the army. And
Absolutely. 100%.
and then didn't want to be in a sub for 9 to 10 months at a time. Knew that Navy was out right away. My one of my best friends at the time, he was actually in the Coast Guard, and I started looking up everything about the Coast Guard, and he just seemed to have like such a wonderful experience. And I was like, yeah, let's go. I was like, I want to be a coastie, be pretend military. Obviously, they're not Department of Defense, but they're still considered a branch. Um, but yeah, so I just wanted to do that, but then I wanted to branch out to other options just in case. I was like, all right, cool. I'll reach out to the army. Turning out in the army, they had a graphic design job. I don't know what the MOS job number is off the top of my head. It's been 3 years.
It's one of those
Um,
nobody knows. Actually, it's
Pretty
fake.
much. Yeah, yeah, fake.
Yeah.
um, but there was a graphic design job in the army, and I am just an artist at heart. I've been drawing for 12 years. So art is just it's my get. So I was like, cool, yeah, I want this job. And then I remember my mom, she was so mad because I was 18 in February, and I was telling her about this all in January. She was gone, she was out. She was out of the state, but she was like, "You're not joining because I have to sign those papers." And then I remember I looked at her and I said, "I'll be 18 in February, Mom. I can do whatever the fuck I want." And she was so mad at me. Um, but then I wanted to see, like, all right, well, if this job isn't available, what is the next job? So I thought, oh yeah, I might as well be a 91 Bravo. I should be a mechanic, right? Learn
It,
learn a little trade in my back pocket.
oh,
Why
it's
not?
such the worst. It's such the worst because I had a similar experience. You have a job set in your mind, and
Mm.
they kind of like, well, just in case, you could always do this or whatever. And you're like, well, I guess I could, but that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, right. And that's what I thought going in my head. I mean, it wasn't like the recruiters or anything that were saying like, "Oh, well, what if this job isn't available?" It was more of me being like, "Okay, let's set some realistic standards here. What if this, that, and the other?" And the thing is that like when I was testing for my ASVAB, I felt so stupid because, like a year prior, I hit my head and I was never really like treated for a concussion, quote unquote, but
Mm.
even though I was. And so I was, I turned dyslexic, I swear to God. So like half the questions didn't make any sense. And then like the recruiters were like, so you understand, you're just not good at taking tests, right? That's just what it is. And I was like, sure. I mean, I'm not gonna go to a doctor and have them say, oh, well, your brain is all jumbled. And then I can't join. I was really scared. I had to get out of Colorado. I was like, man, screw this. I feel like
Mhm.
I have so much more potential than just staying here.
Do you think that
Um,
was like that's what you wanted to do with the army was like get yourself out there, or was it to get the more of the graphic design, the skills?
I mean, really, it was if initially if I were to get the job that I was supposed to get was really just grow in my drawing and my design. And I also just needed to get out. I mean, both my parents and my brother, they were all out of the state. I was living with my aunt, and
Oh wow.
I just noticed that everything was just so freaking expensive. And I was like, this ain't it. I don't want to live somewhere where everything is, costing an arm and a leg to get.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh yeah.
I thought, you know what, I was like, you know what, I already grew up a lot mentally with my childhood, but I was like, you know what, I'm ready to go. I was like, I'm ready to grow up, I'm already grown up, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm mentally there. I was mentally in it to win it. And I was so motivated and I was so happy to finally just swear in and serve. I've had family and everything. Not like immediate family. I mean, the last family that served was, shoot, my great grandpa back in World War II, POW. I never met him, but he seemed like a hell of a guy. So I was just really happy to just continue on the family legacy in that sense. Um,
It seems like
so
you had a
yeah, but
lot of, sorry, what's up?
oh, no, 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 go ahead and ask.
I know I just it seems like you have a lot of factors in play that led you down this road because you have a little bit of um you know,
Yeah.
personal well being that you're trying to accomplish. And then, you got that family legacy a little bit hinting at you. There's just a lot of factors in play that push you towards that. That's interesting because a lot of people,
Oh,
it seems like they only
yeah.
have a couple, but you have like all these things kind of moving you towards something, like what your purpose is, and at least you're working
Mhm.
towards that.
Yeah, and my thing was back then is that if I had my mind set to it, there was nothing stopping me. Nothing stopping me to accomplish that goal, which is really interesting for the way that I thought when I was in. And we'll get to that. So I'm gonna refrain from that from right now. But yeah, there was a lot of factors I would say. And just like other people that were, that you hosted, it seemed like that it was really just either one or two purposes, like to get out, to escape, to create a better life. I was like, well, I want to serve, but here are going to be the benefits of me leaving and starting my own life, pretty
Yeah,
much.
I think what you did is a healthier option, actually. Your decision because it
Yeah.
it looks you're looking for betterment of yourself, not because of not in spite of your situation, but like you're like I just want to do better, so I'm gonna go do this. Like that's a very healthy way to get after something.
Yeah, for sure. So then what was it? It was September of 2019. I'm young, by the way. I just it seems like
No, you're good. Yeah, because I was doing the math in my head, and I'm
it
like,
seemed
oh, I was going to ALC then. I'm getting old.
yeah. So September 2019, shipped off to boot camp. Boot camp was nothing, honestly. It was a comedy show. And I so my class was it was weird. Like my battalion was interesting. My company was interesting because I was shipped off to Fort Jackson. And
Mm-hmm.
everyone says relax in Jackson. And when I was at reception, I swear to God, I was like, this is so boring.
Oh. I don't I
Yeah, everyone says that's like the most boring part because you're getting your uniforms, you're getting this, that, and the other, and people are just like anal for no reason. And I'm like, yo, just follow directions. It's really not that hard. And and I was like, this is so stupid. And I could not wait to finally be shipped off to my company and my battalion,
yeah,
just to finally get on with it.
you were one of the last ones probably that went through before COVID mitigation hit. Um
Yeah, so I graduated in December and then I moved straight to Fort Lee. So there was
mhm.
I think that there was another, no, just kidding. That was a lie. Well, there might have because there was holiday block leave and I had that in AIT, but I didn't know if there was another cycle that rotated through
I
before
well
before
I was
or
in
after.
I was in Carson in 2020. I got there in January of
Oh.
2020, and all I heard in January and February was about COVID, you know? And then in
Mm-hmm.
March, I was scheduled for a school, and that's when all the restrictions hit. Like everything got canceled, it got locked down. But I didn't really know about the trade side. But I know most of the Army, it was just like, boom, you're not going anywhere. Put a mask on. And
Yeah, so AIT was really shitty
was it?
during that time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I was like, man, well, because, you know, went through basic, graduated in December. I was so happy and I was just so happy to be done. I was like, this is great, all the
Yeah.
mental motivation. And then that is also when they decided to do the diagnostic with the ACFT with the trade
Oh,
oxide. So we
yeah.
took the ACFT and either way, I knew if I could pass the ACFT, I could pass the APFT because
Mm,
drill sergeants were always like, oh, well, like your unit might have the APFT, blah, blah, blah. They were always implementing that. Like they might change it back, they might not. It just depends. They might make modifications to it. They just have to do, years worth of research, and we just have to be a part of that research because we're
mm.
government property, right? So I was like, okay, cool. Either way, pass, I was so happy to just like call myself a soldier and I just kind of did my thing. I was like, man, basic was fun, but I'm ready to, move on with my job and so went to AIT, then went to on holiday block leave. So I, went up to Colorado. I saw my family. My
Mm.
grandma was, God bless her. She was like, so you're gonna be here for Christmas. Do you have your dress blues? I would like to see you in your dress blues. And I was like, oh my Lord, the last thing I want to
Yeah.
wear is my
Yeah.
dress blues.
Yeah, you got my nails
Um,
curling. It's like, oh.
yeah, I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, sure, grandma, anything for you, and so they flew us out in uniform, which I was really uncomfortable with
Mm-hmm.
because not everybody needs to know that I, just started and then thanking me for my service, even though I
Yeah.
was only for 2 months. I was like, whatever, it's because they want to look good in the public eye. I was like, whatever, this is fine. Ended up surprising my aunt. The only person that I told was my cousin, and then my cousin created this whole story. My aunt ended up seeing me, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, you're back! Like I didn't know you were coming back." It was really, it was. That is a memory that just warms my heart because I haven't seen her in shoot since 2020, so it's been 3 years.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, I haven't seen a lot of my family in about 3 years, and that just comes with the circumstances of,
Mm-hmm.
now I gotta work, right? Because I'm a civilian now.
Right.
Uh, VA's helping out a lot, but it's just I'm gonna lose my mind if I just sit here. Be
I'm
busy
yeah,
working.
I'm telling you the army does that like this weird thing where you if you sit around for too long, you get like so antsy. You're just like
Hmm.
I got to be doing something. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what it
Yeah, for
is, but
sure.
I can't sit here.
Yeah. Put something in my hands.
Yes,
Like, let me
yes.
fidget with something. Yeah, for sure. So then I went through AIT and it was really funny because completely done with classes, and we were just waiting. We were just doing like graduation rehearsal, and
Hmm.
then that's when all of a sudden they started hearing all the COVID crap coming in,
Yeah.
and they were like, "Well, then your family's not gonna be able to see you graduate, but we'll put up a live stream on Facebook." And I was like, seriously, bro? Like I was like talking to my family. I was like, yo, they already got their plane tickets and everything. And they were like,
Hmm.
well, that's on them. And I was like, okay, I'm just telling you that this sucks. I'm not like bitching about it, but I'm just telling you that it sucks. I'm not expecting you to fix nothing. I'm just saying it sucks." So I was like, oh, that's fine. And I was like, cool, you know what? They'll probably just ship me out as soon as possible anyway. No,
Hmm.
I was held over until May. And I remember it was like April or sometime 2020. And this, honestly, AIT is really where I lost my motivation because I mean, everyone was like an asshole for no reason. And honestly, that sometimes that takes a toll on you when you're trying to just be nice and copacetic with everyone and they're just like, man, fuck you. And I'm like, what did I do to you? You don't have to be an asshole.
Yeah.
Um, and typically I'm pretty spunky. I'm pretty you know, I come back pretty quick, but with that I was like, man, everyone's pissed off because they haven't seen their family in so long. I was like, okay, cool. I was like, be mad, but we're all going through the same thing. It doesn't mean you have to be an asshole about it.
100%. I don't
Yeah.
get why people get so irritated in these in like herd situations where it's like, dude, we can't control this. Like, I don't
Yeah,
know
we're
why
all
you.
we're all in the same boat, man. Like you
Yeah.
don't have to sit there and have a freak out when everyone else is just, compartmentalizing it. Like,
Yeah. Were they just gonna like so with that, were they just gonna like ship you guys out still, or were you guys stuck there?
so we were stuck. We were holdovers basically,
Mm-hmm.
and I just remember there was this one Drill Sergeant Delmeda. If he listens to this, I swear to God, he's gonna freak out. But that guy was a real dickhead. It's like when you go in AIT or or even after you graduate basic, or you have those like moments with your drill sergeant that's like, oh, this is a show. That's kind of what you realize. And
Yeah.
they're actually somewhat decent people. That guy, no. Oh
Oh
no.
yeah.
Through and through was just, I was like, dude, did you get divorced or something? Like, you don't have to put your family life into like on us. But I never said anything because every time anybody would talk back, he'd be like, article. Or
Oh.
or somebody would ask him a question like, I'm sorry, what did you say? He would be like, article. And I was like, you are a trash NCO. And
I yeah, I'll say this just because I'm on that side of the house now, and it's like I because me, I'm the type that would be like, I'd rather just sweat it out of people or talk to them and stuff. There's two types, there's that, and then there's also people who just would rather do the paperwork. I'm not saying one's right or the other. I prefer my way, but like, man,
hmm
sometimes people like that, it is very difficult to deal with, but they
hmm
for sure have their reasons behind it and their strengths. But
yeah,
it's so annoying sometimes. It's so
it
annoying.
really. Oh, it's so annoying. And then I remember I made a couple buddies with some of the girls, and they one of them was on Tinder and found his profile, and so we were sitting there
Ooh.
making fun of him, and I was like, seriously? I was like, who posts this? And we were all just being girls and just making fun of him. It was hilarious. But
Yeah.
I just remember like she sent me screenshots. She was like, look who I found.
Oh my
It's like,
god.
oh my God. I was like, that is crazy. It was hilarious, but ending up in April because more classes from basic were coming in
Mhm.
and they had to get us out. So at Fort Lee for 91 Bravo, there's Ordnance Island, and then there's the rest of the bases quartermaster. So they ended up finding these old ass barracks from like Vietnam, I swear to God, from Vietnam, that they were like, okay, cool, holdover company here. You are going to this holdover company,
Yep,
and
and
then
you're
they'll
just
ship
gonna
you off
wait
from
here,
there.
right? Yep, they ship you. Yep.
Yep. And there was like a tent as a defect. it was,
Oh my
but
god,
like,
it's such,
yeah, but like the
it's so
drill,
shitty.
yeah, it was. But you know what? I was like, I'm okay with this because it's a new environment. The drill sergeants that were there, they were more just, they were more just like your classic NCO, like, hey, we're here, to lead and guide you and this, that, and the other. And since it was such a refresher for me, because you keep getting beaten down, beaten down, beaten down. And at that point, especially when the Rona hit, I like completely lost motivation. I was trying to just be like the middleman here. I was, um, not like, well, I was like squad leader pretty much,
Hmm.
you know, in AIT. I felt like that was the one thing that I should do at least. Didn't get no special award for it because do you get awarded as a 91 Bravo? Hell no. Um,
No. If any,
no.
yeah.
I was listening to one of the episodes yesterday about I think it was your friend Fred, and he was like, "Oh yeah, well I got AAMs and this, that, and the other." And I said,
Yeah,
"What?"
Fred's a special case. I don't get Fred is just very good at being in the right place, right time because he did
Yeah.
he did extremely well, and I'm like, what the
Uh-huh.
hell is all this shit?
Yeah, you're like, what?
Yeah.
um, yeah, I was like, this fucking guy. I was like, man, fuck you, that's the episode. But he seems really nice, so if he listens to this, I don't want to
Yeah.
come off
No,
rude.
fuck you, Fred. I'll say it. I'll say it on your. No, it's fine. No, he'll be good with it.
Yeah, he'll be fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then I got moved over to this holdover company, and since it was such a refresher, I was like, or the drill sergeants were like, who wants to lead PT, blah blah blah, and I was like, I will, I'll do it. And all the drill sergeants were like, man, there's that spunky redhead over here, like ready to go. And I had orders to Fort Campbell, and
Oh,
so
okay.
they were always asking, hey, where are you going? And I was like, oh, I'm going to Fort Campbell. And they're like, man, you're going to do so well there, like talking me up. And I was like, man, I'm so ready to go. Like, Kentucky ain't ready for me, this, that, and the other. Being classic 19-year-old self, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
things, you're invincible. But then finally, like, we were just waiting. It was like, this week you're going to leave. This week you're going to leave. This week you're going to leave. And I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, well, it's obviously not happening. So, when is this happening? Until I was on CQ one night. Our CQ shifts were longer, but it didn't really matter. I'm a night owl anyway. I mean, you know, I'll do whatever.
Mhm.
Um, but I saw a whiteboard and it was a whole bunch of us that said Fort Campbell and then other duty stations
Uh-huh.
and saying when they were gonna leave. And I was like, yes, yes, that means I'm leaving this week because it's written down. And they're trying to ship us out because, more people are coming in from basic. They have to try and get all of these holdovers out. And I knew some people that were like shipping off to Germany that waited until like June or July to go.
Yeah.
And I was like, I could never, I could never do that. That is so, I could not be a holdover for that long just because it's like you're so ready to go, but then it keeps getting pushed back. And then you're like, what's my purpose now? That's definitely one thing a lot of people lost was their purpose, especially during AIT,
Yeah.
which is really sad. But, given the circumstances, I don't, I mean, we're all in the same boat. You just kind of have to find an even ground, so to say.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so finally in May, they moved us over to, finally in May. What is wrong with me? Hold on, let me take a sip before I wake
It's
up a little
early.
bit.
Yeah. The people that aren't listening, it's like 6 o'clock in the morning right now.
Yeah, and
We're
I'm never up this early on a Saturday.
yeah, just out here getting after it. Okay.
I know. Yeah, real motivated today.
No.
Um, so yeah, May of 2020, finally moved to Fort Campbell. I knew that I was going to be in First Brigade, and
Mhm.
I thought I was gonna be in an infantry battalion. So I was like, great, I'm gonna deal with dumb infantry dudes all day.
Mhm.
Turning out way different. I ended up getting moved to an engineering battalion, but you have like that reception area where they make sure your immunizations are all good and that everything is fine, and that the okay, cool, like you're deployable, quote unquote, and then they
Mhm.
ship you off to your unit finally after a week. Well, I was in reception for 2 weeks because when I got there, somehow my paperwork got lost in transition. So I was never assigned a platoon. So I was just kind of chilling there. And,
Oh,
you
like
know,
your
I
orders and stuff?
well, like I got my orders and everything. It was more of like trying to get the other stuff. Oh my goodness. It was like Calsu was just a shit show.
Yeah.
It was like getting my immunizations and then where am I going? When are they grabbing me? And what exactly do I need to do? Do I need to get my life? Do I need to get my SGLI printed out? Do I need to do this? So it was they just forgot about me, and I was like, this is fine. I'll just walk to the shop at get a bang and a pack of
Yep.
smokes
Yep.
day. You know, and I felt like I smoked a lot during that time, and I'm so glad that I stopped smoking cigarettes
Yeah.
because I was like, man,
And you
I
feel
feel like I,
grimy because you're just hanging out at the barracks all day and like
yeah,
just
and
laying
those
around.
barracks were fucking nasty. I mean,
Yeah.
my God, I remember just like the bathrooms, the showers specifically were absolutely horrendous. I mean, just like there's black mold everywhere, and they're just like, well, you need to keep up your personal hygiene. And I'm like, how the fuck are we supposed to do
You need
that
to
when there's
keep
black
up.
mold in the shower?
Yeah. You need to keep it
Do you
up.
want me
This
to
is
die?
disgusting.
Yes. But I ended up just I made a lot of friends over there, especially I mean, what else are you gonna do? You know, except sit there and talk and shoot the shit with people.
Yeah.
And I remember like we were finally allowed to, wear civvies, and I was like, yes, sweatpants all the way, and we're just gonna hang out. And the one thing is I really wanted to explore the area. Couldn't really do that with it being COVID.
Oh
So it
yeah.
was, it was difficult in some points, but apparently Campbell just opened back up at that point when we got there.
Mm-hmm.
So they were still really, they had these really horrible, not horrible. I mean, everyone was trying to be safe, but these restrictions. And I was like, man, let turn over the reins. I'm ready to go. Like, come on. But yeah, so then I got moved to an engineering battalion. And specifically with that one, we were the support for everyone in
Mm-hmm.
that battalion.
Yeah.
It was one company that was the whole support. And
Right.
was all the equipment not properly PMCS? Of course not. Was everything broken at the last minute? Pretty much. Uh yeah, no thank you. So I moved, and it was really funny. I was at the brigade, building, and I don't know why I was so scared. I think it was just, going into a new environment again. So my nerves were I was just really on edge that day. I didn't really know what exactly to expect, which is kind of scary sometimes. And um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, and then I remember, well, he's my husband now, but he picked me up. I still remember that truck because I drove it constantly before I left. Um, but he was like, hey, I'm Sergeant Nelson, what's going on? Who are you? And I was like, oh, hey, I go by Red, because no one can pronounce my maiden name.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, if someone were to see it on a name tag, they're like, Shwa, Shwa. And I was like, just call me Red. Just call me Red. Make it easier. I was
Jeez.
like, don't worry about it. Yeah. I mean, it's been like that my whole life. So, I was like, this is fine. Just call me Red, it's gonna be easier.
Yeah.
Got to my company. I met my platoon sergeant, and she was so nice. Didn't know that she was incompetent at her job, but either way, she was nice when she wanted to be. It was it was weird. If you like kissed her ass, she was so nice to you. But then if you didn't, she was so rude. And I definitely noticed that after a couple years of being there, when I was like, hey, I need help. Can you help me? And she was just like on her phone, like talking to other people the whole time. And I was like, we specifically scheduled this so I can talk to you, and then you're gonna be over here fucking off. I was like, man, fuck you. I was like, fuck this shit.
I
I'm
think
done.
I think that's a huge problem in the I don't know if it's military or just society in general, but it seems like the leaders there that like if you're nice to them, they help you, which like that does help, right? If you have like a good relationship, but regardless, you should still like if you have people that you don't get along with at work, that's fine. You still got to work with them though. So like you can't just
Mm-hmm.
brush off these issues, and it's so annoying to hear like Joes, especially like privates and shit, who they're like, yeah, my NCO just won't help me, but they're always overdoing other shit with other people. And you're like, like you want to
Mm-hmm.
sit that other person down and be like, dude, take the blinders off and fucking help them. So number one, you don't get shit on, but number two, so like you remember what it was like to be a private, like actually like you actually went up and asked for help. Like
Mm-hmm.
take that and
And
run
this
with
was
it.
when, yeah, and the really shitty thing was is that this company was absolutely horrible. Like, I mean, everyone has their own experiences, but this company was actually terrible. And I mean, I don't regret it. I don't regret it at all because I wouldn't have met my husband. I wouldn't have gone through the experiences that made me, who I am today, and making the better parts of me grow. But I mean, it just really comes to show you that, like, specifically with that company, if you just kiss ass constantly, you are praised. And then, if you're E4 and below, you're absolutely nothing, which I get it. If you're an E2, you're a piece of shit no matter what you do. Cool. That's just kind of the culture of being a 91 Bravo. If you're an E2, you're a piece of shit. If you're an E3, you kind of know what you're doing. If you're an E4, you somewhat know what you're doing. Um, but it was more of like it was a really weird game where it was like who do I need to please to fuck over this person? It was toxic. Like that is so toxic where it's like, who can
Yeah.
I screw over today? And that's what I absolutely hated. I was like, hell no. So as soon as I got there and I kind of noticed everything, I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna pick up E5 and I'm gonna change this place.
I think I think that's what everybody wants when they're like trying to get that rank. They're like, I'm gonna change the army as an E5. I'm
Well,
gonna turn this place
it wasn't
around,
like
and it's
changing the
gonna be
army.
awesome.
It wasn't like changing the way you said it got me dead, but it was more of like I want to create a better impact for new soldiers coming in. It was almost like kind of like breaking the cycle, but also not. I was like, I just want it to be a better experience for newer soldiers coming in.
That's all. Like
That was.
that was my experience too. It's a lot of people when they get that rank.
Mm-hmm.
People that like care about like or had a terrible time themselves. A lot of people are like, I want to make it. One of my old NCOs, he always said that he go, there's two types of leaders. There's one that's like, I had to suffer, so you had to suffer, or
Mm-hmm.
and the other one is I suffered, so I don't want you to suffer. And those are the ones that are trying to make that positive impact and stuff. And that just
Mm-hmm.
means you're typically a good person. You're just looking out for other people.
Yeah, and especially, in my past experience too, I was always like, if anybody needs me, you can call me because I mean, I'll sit there and listen to you and I'm not going to tell anybody because I don't want anybody to feel lonely the way that I felt lonely. I told that to everyone. I mean, I was leading, paint crews and stuff like that for tech theater for a couple of years until I just kind of burnt out and the freshmen were just absolutely horrendous. Um, yeah, I was like, screw this, I'm out. Plus, I gotta work, I gotta make money.
Yeah.
But other circumstances and stuff like that. But when I got there, I was like, all right, I'm gonna pick up and then I'm gonna just make it a better experience for everyone because, or for at least the people that I'm gonna be over because
Yeah.
this is just ridiculous. I was like, this is so fucked. This is so toxic. And I'm gonna try and shield anybody to not deal with that constant toxicity. I was like, screw that. So anyway, but then with gear not really properly fitting right because they just throw it at you, I started noticing some really bad things with my hips.
hmm
And for context, I'm 5'1", and
Yeah, I saw
none
a
of the gear.
picture of you. You're really tiny. For those that are,
I am so small.
yeah, uh,
Five
and
one and
that's
100 pounds.
yeah, and for those that
Mhm.
haven't been in the army or anything, that's hard, especially on your hips and stuff and your back. It's
Mhm.
just I can't
Yeah.
imagine.
Oh my gosh. And like I'm still experiencing those issues now, which, the VA is just fantastic at treating. So
Oh yeah.
getting there. Um, but so then I was on profile, or restrictions, so to say, because I know that there's some people that don't really understand what that means, but they're basically just like doctor notes, restrictions, like you can't do this, this, and that, blah blah blah. And then my first sergeant hated me, but that guy was just an asshole. Okay, I just kind of come to terms with that, but I was like, why do you have to be such a dick? There's no reason. But turning out that's just kind of who he was as a person. I was like, yeah, no, thank you. I'm not going to talk to you. But he was even like, after I think it was like a month or something like that of me being on restrictions, because I was going to physical therapy and I was trying to figure out what was wrong, if anything was torn, if I had whatever, this, that, and the other. But I was just trying to figure out a lot of my stuff so then I can get better and then move on.
Yeah.
But after like a month, he was like, "Man, I'm gonna chapter 517 you, blah blah blah." Like just ripped into me one day. And chapter 517, that's a medical chapter.
Hmm.
And I had just gotten there and I was like, I'm not trying to be a shitbag, dude. Like I just want to get better so I can move on. That's that simple. But yeah, and then even in like September of 2020, we went to JRTC, so good old Fort Polk, Louisiana.
Gross.
Oh my God.
For those that don't really know about it, it's this joint training center down in Louisiana at Fort Polk, which everybody calls like the
It is.
armpit of the army. It's
Oh my God. It is
nasty.
hot. It's sticky.
Hmm. It's
There's something.
gross.
It's disgusting. And everyone is on one and just so anal about everything. And I
Hmm.
was like, we all can't just go in our peace palace, man. You don't have to be a dick. That's mostly just like my experience, where I was just trying to be copacetic with everyone, but everyone else was just like, and blah blah blah, and then taking it out on everybody. And I was like, that's stupid.
70% of the army is actually just what Brynn is, like just mumbling. You don't have to be a dick about it. Just all the time.
Yes, all the time. It's ridiculous. But yeah, I went to JRTC, and this is definitely one of the key points, because my husband now, because especially when I first got into Campbell, I know I'm jumping around a lot,
No,
but
you're good.
um I remember I felt so lonely, and there was somebody that was really nice to me, and we were talking and everything, and I had friends up in aviation, so we were having parties like every weekend. But then one weekend I got roofied because it was like a little vape,
Hmm.
but I was like, "Hey, how much Nick is in there?" And he said, "Oh, 5 milligrams." And I was like, "Do you mind if I take a hit?" Mine died. It turned out to be valerian root, which is, it's like a natural way. You can't pop hot on it, but it's like a natural way to get high.
Hmm.
Um, and so I remember, like, I was already drinking, and I was like 19 at the time, so there was no way I was gonna go and report it because I was underage drinking.
Yeah.
And I was so scared, and I was texting my buddy who was like sitting across the room, and I was like, dude, I'm so scared. Like, get everybody out of here. I need to just like sleep this off, blah blah blah. And she went up and told the guy, because we were hanging out in his room. She went up and told the guy that lives there, and she's like, hey, like, she's kind of fucked up. Like, can we get everyone else out of there? And from what I remember, he was like, all right, everyone up. We're gonna go take a walk. And then the guy that, had me take a hit of his vape, he was like, hey, is she coming with? And he was like, no. And then he like had to push him out of his room and then lock the door. It was terrifying. And I remember I was like, I couldn't do anything about it. I was so
Yeah,
out
you
of
were
it. It was
super
so
out of it.
scary.
Yeah.
It was so scary. And then I remember I just slept it off. I had one of the girls that the girl that I texted, she was in there, and she was just watching me the entire night. It was trip sitting pretty much. She was just making sure that I was still breathing, everything was good, I wasn't gonna like puke and then seize it, nothing like that. She just wanted to make sure I was okay.
Yeah.
So um and then I remember I woke up the next morning and I was like, that motherfucker roofied me, and I was so mad. But I told the guy, I was like, hey, thank you for, I really appreciate that. Like that could have been absolutely that would have been terrible and this, that, and the other. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, thank God.
Shout out to
Yeah,
that
and
dude because that happens more than it should
yeah.
ever in the army.
Oh my gosh.
And I know a lot of those people though that are like the good side more than the bad, that try to help males and females when they're too fucked up. Um, so
Yeah.
good on
And
that
that's the
dude.
thing. Yeah, and like I just want to, say this now when I just want to say this right now is the fact that, I wanted to come on here because I know that not everybody's experience is different, but for anybody that has had the same experience as me, I just want to make them, feel like, hey, I'm not alone in this, and it does get better. And that's like the worst thing to say when somebody's, depresso espresso, but that's basically the only thing I can say is that it does get better. You just got to take the right steps and have the right connections and just try and do what you need to do, take care of yourself basically. But yeah, it was so scary. But then like the next weekend, we were over there having, good old barracks party, and except it was just like five of us, right? And
Mm.
um, I remember I was just drinking. Man, what was I drinking? I think I was just drinking beer because that was when I can drink beer. Um, and then a couple other people had Four Locos, and I was
Ooh,
like, dude, no, I don't hate myself that much.
so gross. I
Um,
haven't had one in so long, but they're so
oh,
disgusting.
oh my
It is so
God,
bad.
hell no. But then I remember, what was it? One of them was like, hey, I'll pump up the same guy that, helped me out. He was like, hey, I can blow up an air mattress. And we were all making jokes because he didn't have, an automatic and, inflator.
Hmm.
So we were all blown into it,
Oh my god.
making jokes like, oh yeah, you know how to blow, blah blah blah. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, what else did that mouth do? We're just giving each other so much shit. It was so funny. And then I remember I fell asleep, but then I woke up and there was somebody else behind me.
Hmm.
But I was like, okay, no big deal. I'll share a bed with anybody. Just don't touch me. Then we're good. But that guy started filling up on me, and I was like, this ain't
Oh
it.
Jesus
And then I
Christ.
froze because I was scared. You have that
Hmm.
fight, flight, freeze. I
Yeah.
freeze. So I froze, and then finally, that girl that helped me out a lot too. She was like, "Hey, we're gonna hang out. Do you want to come?" And I was like, "No, I'm good." And then she was like, "What's wrong? Like you're not the same as you were." And I was so scared to tell her. I was like, "Yo, so this guy, I know that he's your buddy and that you work with him, but this is what happened, and he's probably going to deny it, and I just want it all to slip under the rug. I don't want to report it or anything because I mean, come on, like look at the Vanessa Guillen case. Like there was so much that I mean, I know it's a completely different place and everything, but it's like the army does not take sexual assault or sexual harassment in a serious manner because it just rank overpowers all, and that's really sad. But they're actually putting in a lot of implications to switch that over to civilian side now, more than just military justice system. So good on them, but the fact that we had to take that journey to get there is really upsetting. But we're
Yeah,
getting there. So I was
there's
like,
too many issues with the process, and it's
mhm.
so annoying. Um I've never had to deal with it, but I've known a lot of people that have, and it just seems like it makes it a burden on the people going through it. Um
Yeah,
and that just sucks. I just wish there
yeah,
was a better
and
answer, and there needs to be,
yeah,
but
for sure. Yeah, but I was like, please just slip it under the rug like nothing happened, but I'm just confiding in you because I trust you.
mhm.
And she ended up calling him out, and then he kept messaging me over and over. He was like, I never did that. It just harassing me. And I was like, you did. You
Mhm.
did do that. You asshole. I was like, fucking man up and admit it. But I never saw him again after that, and I blocked him on everything because I was like, I'm not gonna report this. I can't. I mean, what are they gonna do? Um, I don't even know his first name. I know that he's in aviation. I don't know exactly what unit he's in. I could have got that all from the girl that I could have I could have, got that info, but at that point I was like, no, I'm not doing it. Left the party scene for a little bit. But I ended up making friends with this one guy, and I ended up really taking a liking to him. Um and then we ended up dating, and piece of shit. I will already say that
Oh,
now.
okay.
And karma to
I was like, is this different than that other dude or what?
Oh no, no, not
This
my
guy's a
husband, not
piece
my
of shit
husband.
though.
I love my husband, but this guy before him was an actual piece of shit. Uh I was lonely. I just wanted connections, and I didn't, I mean, I was so young. I mean, I was 19, and so
Hmm.
I didn't know what to do. And it's really hard for me to make friends, or it was really hard for me to make friends. Now it's like I don't care anymore. I'm just like, hey, this is me. If you don't like it, you can leave.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. Um, but being that young, it's really hard. So, I got into that relationship. Guy was an actual piece of shit. He, he always had this fucking truck, and we do that hard labor all day, and I'm learning more and more about these specific trucks and changing out parts. We're just parts changers, really.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, we're doing like impossible work, because we don't have power tools
Yeah.
in the shop. I was like, what sort of sense? I was like, so you're expecting us to do this today, but then nobody knows where the torque wrenches are at. Chief ain't here to unlock the door.
Yeah.
I was like, so you're just gonna expect us to use a breaker bar instead of just, you know, getting an impact? It was so stupid. I was like, this is ridiculous. I was like, no, if we don't get it done today, it is what it is, and they can be mad about it all they want, but learn to invest in your equipment instead of just getting a new truck. So we
Absolutely.
can actually fix it. Um, but yeah, and then he always had this truck, and he always wanted to work on it, or it was always broken, and blah blah blah. And he spent more time on that truck than, hanging out with me, which I don't really care. If you want to go do something. But if it's constant where you're putting your truck over like relationships and just like friendships and stuff like that, that's going to be an issue. But
Do you think
yeah.
like do you think like as you have a bad relationship in the military, it directly correlates to you how you feel about the actual military? Because
Mm,
I know in times where I've had a bad relationship, I have also just kind of been sad at work. So do you think I don't? I'm also a pretty emotional person. Do you think that like affected you that way, or were you able to separate the two?
No, I was always able to separate the two. I'm pretty good about workplace and home boundaries pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
But just because I had one bad rap with somebody doesn't mean that I absolutely hate it. I tend to separate those fairly well. Like my experience in the military was already pretty shitty. I just got in a bad unit. It is what it is. I've come to terms with it. Um, but like just for who he was as a person, as a soldier, yeah, he army stuff he can do. But as a person, piece of shit. But yeah, so I don't know, he was just a dick. And then every time, he was like, hey, do you want to help me with this? And honestly, I was just so eager to just get up and learn, and just learn more about cars, because it's always a good thing, to learn about cars and how they work and how every moving part goes. Um And I remember like every time I would literally just be standing there and just like watching what he was doing. And he would just sit there and yell and berate at me in the barracks parking lot. And I was like, this is
Oh
embarrassing.
yeah,
So embarrassing. He's like, what
yeah.
the fuck are you doing? And I took it. I was like, this is normal. I was so brainwashed. I was like, this is so normal. And then one of the guys at work, he was like, hey, so my house is empty, and do you want to move in? This guy was whacked. Okay.
Jesus
This
Christ.
guy was like, this guy was not right. And there are some things I was like, what the fuck? I was like, why would you say that? And I cannot, I was literally living there for like 5 months.
Oh my god. What?
Yeah, because I hate, okay,
Because
Fort
you.
Campbell First Brigade Barracks, it is literally like the rooms were as long as my arms. And remember, I'm small. So they're tiny, compact rooms. It's like you feel so claustrophobic. And I just didn't want to live in the fucking barracks anymore. And I was already looking at, apartments and stuff that I could try to afford. But then he said, hey, I'll rent you out a room for like 150 bucks a month. I said, I'm ready. I'm ready to go. Packing up. I'm leaving.
Creeper. Creeper.
Oh yeah. No, no, but what was it? There was another guy and he actually moved in with my husband and I when we first bought the house, but he was like, "Yeah, I'm moving in with this guy too. Me and my girl and I'm paying 300 a month for, the both of us." And I was like, "Cool, great. Me, you." It was me, you, and then the dude that I was dating at the time. And then we moved in there and you know, at one point we went to Stillwater, Tennessee to look at this underwater cave lake
Hmm.
or something like that. His wallet ended up getting stolen, and then he said it was my fault that his shit was stolen, and he yelled at me the whole fucking trip. And I remember, like the people that we were with, they were like, "Man, I'm just surprised you don't leave his ass there." And I was like, "Because I'm gonna get in trouble. I'm gonna get in trouble if I leave him there." Because he's gonna rat me out. I was like, what else
Yeah.
am I supposed to do? So yeah, it was so stupid. And I was like, man, you're never going through that shit again, ever in a million years. That is absolutely horrible. And anybody who is in those types of relationships, it's not worth it. Get out. Just get the fuck out. Like, you gotta leave. But then I moved in with that friend, me and the dude that I was with, and he was always out, like he couldn't drive, he didn't have his license, so I was basically supporting him and I was always using my money to pay for everything, and I was still paying for my car. I still had other bills that I had to pay, and I still had to, it doesn't matter, you get paid every 2 weeks, but when you're only an E3 with no BAS or no BAH, you're kind of broke all the time
Oh
if you
yeah.
don't budget out correctly.
Yeah. There's no money there. I'm not
Yeah.
budgeting. Okay.
Well, I don't do numbers anymore because I hit my head, So
Yeah.
I'm like, here you go. My husband
Yeah.
is all numbers. So I'm like, okay, you do the budgeting thing. That doesn't make sense. I'm gonna go over here. I'll ask if we
Yes.
can get something. So yeah, but then, I was driving him around everywhere, and then he would be out like trying to fix this truck or anybody else's cars until like 3 in the morning, and I was just sitting there. And I was like, he was like, "Oh yeah, just give me 5 more minutes." But then if I were to say, "Hey, it's been 5 minutes," he'd be like, "No, it's not. You're lying." It was so stupid. But then finally,
Just a toxic
uh,
relationship in general. Just a
just
very
so
toxic
toxic. And I
relationship.
was like, I was like, nah, nah. I was like, no, this ain't it. But I especially come to see that when I started realizing like I was so sad. And I just want to give a little caveat to anybody because this gets really dark. But I remember like I was blaming myself for everything to the point that I was like harming myself because I didn't know what else to do. I couldn't leave, right?
Hmm.
I didn't like realize that he could just leave. I like that was not in my head at the time until finally I confided in the guy that I was living with, and I was like, "Look, I'm having a really hard time. Like he hasn't paid rent yet when we moved in. Is it okay if like I can't do this anymore. He needs to leave." And the guy was like, "I'm okay with that. I hate seeing you so upset." And just being a really good supportive friend. And I was like, "Awesome. Great." Then that night, I remember we were in my truck and I was like, "I'm done. I'm done." And he was like, "Well, what's going on?" And I was like, "I'm fucking done." And he was like, "Done with what? Done with what? Done with what?" Just trying to pry it out of me. And I was so scared. I was shaking. I started crying because I thought he was gonna hurt me. And I was like, "I need you to pack up your shit and get the fuck out of this house." And he was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Blah blah blah. And I was like, "No." I was like, "You need to get up and you need to leave." At that point, I was sleeping on the couch and I was telling my therapist this, and he was like, "Why are you doing that? Like, can we just think, you know?" And then I got prescribed antidepressants, and I really started getting more of a clear head of what was going on. I started to not become so brainwashed anymore, pretty much. And that's when I was like, "You need to get up and you need to leave." Um, and so then he did that, and literally that night he was around the whole fucking barracks with a bottle, and he was like, "Man, fuck that bitch, blah blah blah. She fucking kicked me out, and nobody was there to like back me up." I mean, just spread terrible rumors about me at work, and I
Yeah,
was
there's
like,
like a big old trailer park breakup going on in the barracks. This
pretty
is
much,
this is rough.
and yeah, and I sat there and I was like, "You really have nothing better to do but to just talk shit about me? That's so cute." And I was at that point, then my husband and he wasn't my husband, but we were talking at the time, and we weren't really getting like down and serious. I know it's like I moved on from that toxic one, but honestly, I was so away from that for so long. I had zero feelings for him, and I just needed him to leave. I just didn't know exactly what opportunity, because it's scary. You
Hmm.
don't know if, I mean, leaving is one of the most dangerous parts, because that's when they become unhinged and you have no idea what to do. I mean, some people die because of it, and it's tragic. Um, but yeah, so then my husband and I were together now. He was in E5, and he made E5 in 2 years. I mean, he
Hmm.
was he was in Korea, then Fort Sill, and then he was finally at Campbell. And um and he was like, "We need to keep this on the DL." I said, "Great. You know me. I hate everybody here."
Yeah.
Everyone fuck off. But I try to be nice when I try to be nice every day. But if somebody says something, I'm like, "No, screw you." But yeah, so um it was whacked, but we ended up dating, and then for my birthday I was turning 20, and I was like, cool. So, all of the roommates were coming together. They were gonna make me dinner. They were gonna get all the liquor. And there was a really bad blizzard coming in that night. That's a key. And the guy, my ex, shows up at the house, and he's like, "Hey, I just wanted to say happy birthday. Can I come in?" And it wasn't me who answered the door. It was the guy who owned the house, and he was like, "Yeah, sure." And then he was like, "Hey, I just want to say happy birthday, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "What is happening? What are you doing here?" I was like, "You need to leave." And he's like, "No, I'm not leaving." Then homeboy went through my phone and saw messages between me and my now husband, and I had it to where it was his nickname, and he had no idea. And then he proceeded to yell and berate me, and I said, "We're not dating anymore." I was like, "That's none of your business." And he's like, "Well, who's that guy?" I was like, "None of your fucking business." It was terrible. But you know what? Karma got him, because he got shingles and then he shipped out to Fort Sill. So I can't.
Jeez.
Like, yeah, and at that point I was like, "Bro, I'm so done." And then he tried to report me and my now husband for like fooling around.
Hmm.
And honestly, which, okay, if you think that that is happening, you can report that to your chain of command, or you can literally just mind your own business. It really just, you can do either
Yeah,
or.
it just sounded like he was being petty.
It really was. It was because he was being petty. And then I remember the XO at the time, God bless him, LT Wiz. He's he is the most amazing, most down to earth person. And I somewhat talk to him today. He's still really supportive no matter what. I mean, just an amazing person. Like, he's gonna make an amazing leader and a commander. He really is, and I hope all the best for him. But he was like, "So there have been allegations that you and Sarah Nelson are messing around," and I remember looking at him. I looked at him like he was so stupid. I was like, "Huh?" I was like, "Gross." No, lie. Just lied to him. And we both did, straight to his face. And then my husband was telling all of his NCO buddies, he's like, "Man, I brought some chick home from the bar. She told me she loved me after we fooled around, and the guy was like, "Hey, my ex was like, oh my gosh, like I'm so sorry for saying that." And then, I told him because he still had some of his stuff in my room, and I was like, "Hey, you can either come pick up your shit or I'm gonna throw it away." And so he went to pick it up and then he knocked on my door and he was like, "Hey, he's like, "Hey, I just wanted to say that I'm sorry for everything." And I was like, "Thank you for your apology. I don't accept it though." And and then I looked at him and I was like, "I know that you reported us, you fucking dick." And then I just like gaslit the shit out of him because I was like, "You're not coming after me. You're not coming after me and my new dude." I was like, "You're not doing that. You're not gonna pull this shit off. Like just because you want to be petty and that you're so upset because I told you to get out." I was like, "You're an asshole. Fuck out of my life. You don't need to know what happens in my personal life anymore. You see me at work, that's it. And I don't even talk to you. Like, just pretend like I'm not there. It's that fucking simple." And yeah, he was,
Is this all within the first like 2 years?
oh, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
this is like 2021
Right.
when he was starting some fuck shit.
Just
And I
so
was like,
much drama for
just
the
so
first
much
duty station.
drama. And I was
I
like,
I
oh my
can't.
God.
Yeah. It's
You're
not.
you're sitting there like, oh my God.
Well, no, it's just I've been married now for 6 years, and then I have not really been in a traditional unit in a while, so I'm
Mm-hmm.
not used to all the bullshit. And you're talking about it, and I'm like, oh my god, what the fuck are they doing? Why are we doing
Pretty
that?
much.
It's just
Pretty
it's
much.
yeah
And yeah, I was like, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so much drama. But think about it too, is that I'm dealing with all of this in my personal life, and I'm still dealing with the bullshit at work.
yeah yeah.
So there's a lot like hitting me. And I was like, cool, I'm on my antidepressants and I'm just kind of chilling, I'm just going through the motions.
Hmm.
And then what was it? It was in February. I remember it was 3 days after my birthday. And we were supposed to have that day off because it froze over. And anybody who knows Fort Campbell, if it snows half an inch, they close the base down, unless if you are mandatory to work. Well, I was one of those mandatory workers because they thought I still lived in the barracks.
Oh
So
yeah.
good thing I'm from Colorado because I know how to drive in snow. It's not like some other people that just
Hmm.
like lose their minds. And so I got there and it was so cold. And one of the wreckers, or one of the big tow trucks, they have a whole bunch of hydraulic lines, and I'm so small, so the one of the hydraulic lines busted. So of course they're shoving me in this tiny, tiny little space, trying to fix this line, trying to make a new hose, and this, that, and the other. And the heaters were going and the bay doors were up. So there's hydraulic oil everywhere, leaking all over the truck.
Oh my
There's
god.
ice melting. And you don't know the difference, especially with the glare of the sun. You don't know the difference between oil and water.
Uh-huh.
When I went to get up, I put one foot up, felt it was sturdy enough. I grabbed my hands, I pulled myself up, my foot slipped, and I fell down and popped both of my shoulders.
Jesus Christ.
And I almost shat my pants.
Yeah.
That was so fucking scary, just falling in general. And I remember like my adrenaline was going, I was ready to go.
Hmm.
This one NCO, I love him so much, and I'll say his name, Sergeant Ramos. What a guy. Okay. He was like, "Oh my God, Red, are you okay? Go sit down. Go sit down." Just dad mode automatically. Like he's not
Yeah.
a dad, but he is. And he's like, "Go sit down, go chill out." And I was like, "No, I'm good." I was like, "Let's go. I'm ready to go."
Yeah.
Literally. Um, that Sunday I went to the ER and said, "Hey, like my shoulder is popping out of its socket and there's something wrong." So they ended up like rushing me over to get my to go see the primary care doc. And she was like, "Yeah, it sounds like that you tore your shoulder, so I'm going to put you on restrictions." Well, here we go again with the restrictions.
Yeah, with the medical stuff.
Then, yeah, and then here's everybody in the shop. You're a piece of shit. You're this and that. You can't do this. And it was just like constant harassment. And I was like, I didn't sitting there in my sling. I was like, I didn't ask to fall. I'm trying to get better, and then you're
Yeah.
over here harassing me. And at some point, like during 2021 too, is that I realized I was like, I'm never gonna pick up. I'm never gonna pick up because everyone thinks I'm a piece of shit. I was like, I'm pretty copacetic with everybody. It is what it is. And I was like, okay, whatever. If you really just want to be an asshole, you can be an asshole,
Well,
whatever.
and you're hurt, so then you can't prove yourself, and then
Right. And especially with being in such a male-dominated job, I mean, you walk in every day, you have to be on your game 24/7, or else you're just going to get berated with these comments. And most people were like, oh, cool. Yeah. Like there's a chick in the motor pool and she knows what's up. Uh, But really, you look at leadership, yeah, at that unit, and they're like, oh, so you're going to make everyone do things for you. And I'm like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. No, I'm gonna learn my fucking job and I'm gonna be good at this. And they were
mm,
like, okay, whatever. Just no faith. And I was like, already off a bad start from the get-go. Um, but yeah, and then I was really just like going through it mentally because I was so done. I was like, man, I go to work and all I do is just get fucking harassed all the time and just all this and that. And then um,
will it crush your
you know,
morale?
it really does. And
Mm-hmm.
I was so done. And even like the first sergeant that was still there, literally the day before that I was gonna go see my doctor again about just like further treatment options and seeing if she can extend my restrictions because
Mm-hmm.
at this point like my shoulder was like down to my hip and then it was like this. I know that you can see it on video, but my shoulder was like
Yeah.
this. And so I don't know exactly how to describe it for, audio listeners, but
No.
it was yeah, it was like
It looks like a
I
teeter
had to
totter. It looks like a teeter
pretty
totter.
much.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. So, um, yeah, and then I remember the first sergeant was like, "Well, you're never gonna pick up E5 if you don't go to air assault school." And that's where like you
Ooh,
learn how to
yeah.
rappel out of
Yeah.
helicopters,
Geez.
blah blah
Yeah. Because
blah.
you're at Campbell and stuff, so they're all who about
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
And I was like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "There are plenty of people that have made E5 and have never been to air assault school
Yeah.
here
100%.
in this." Yeah. And he was like, "Well, it's now becoming a requirement." I was like, "All right,
That's not the
dick.
thing.
You're just
That's
trying to
not
get
the
your
thing.
numbers up."
Yeah.
Whatever. So then at that point I knew I was never gonna pick up. And then at that point I was in college too and for my graphic design stuff really. And I started realizing like he was the first sergeant was using some interesting language that almost made people like in a trance. He just used all the right words and like he knew how to speak to people correctly so that
Mm-hmm.
way they can like
Mm-hmm.
do what he wants them to do. It's not like talking to someone like, "Hey, can you do this?" He would like manipulate it. It was so sinister. I was like, I know what you're trying to do.
Yep.
Nope. It's like I see right through your bullshit. Um, but yeah, so like I went to work and I was really just going through it and I was like, I'm just trying to make it through the day, man. I
How
was like,
much longer did you have left on your contract at that point?
so at that point, I still had about 2 years because I was supposed to get out of March of this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I was really kind of starting to think, you know what? I could probably drag this out and take the med board route. I
Mm-hmm.
could. But at that point, I just wanted to get better. Like that was my thing, is that I just wanted to get better. And with being constantly harassed all the time, oh, this is when it gets good. Everyone take a sip for this one, and because I'm gonna knock your socks off here. I had my own. We switched squads all the time, so I had this new NCO, grade A asshole. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
um, grade A. And I remember I was saying, in the military, we have really dark humor and we laugh and joke about suicide. It is not a joke, but we'll just say, oh, like if this happens, I'm gonna fucking shoot myself or something like that. We don't mean it, but we just think it's funny. I mean, you're in the motor pool, you just say shit to make people laugh because everyone's miserable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then this new NCO, I was already like I woke up and I was just not in it to win it and I was just so done. And he was like, "Oh, well, you can't do this, right? You should go fucking kill yourself." And I said, "Excuse me?" And he said, "Yeah, you heard me." And it became constant every day. Go kill yourself, go kill yourself, go kill yourself. And
Oh,
that takes a toll on you. I'll tell you that
yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Takes a toll on you. And then I went to behavioral health, or the mental health place that's there on the brigade footprint. And I was like, I confided into like to a major in
Yeah. To the
'04
medic up there
who's
or
supposed to
the.
be like the psychologist there.
Mhm.
And I confided in her. I said, I'm so done. Like, I'm making plans to actually end my life and I want to fucking die. And then she said, well, I think you just need to get up and get over it. And I was like, why would you say that? Why would you say that? And I was like, all right. And then it came to a point where I was like, if I die, the army wins. And that's not, no, no, it's not going to win. And I had to sit there and tell that to myself.
Yeah.
Um,
Because a
but
lot of
yeah,
people
so then
would just let those thoughts win at that point. You know, you're just like,
and then I remember, like, I'm not really a super religious person, but I always just had this thought in the back of my mind saying, you have greater things. This is temporary. This
mm-hmm.
is a temporary situation. Do not look for a permanent solution. Try and find it's really just the little things. Inside all the bullshit, it's the little things, it's the little memories that can really just help you try and keep going. And I was like, this is like, we gotta come on, like, we gotta go. We gotta do this, we gotta do that, and it's all gonna be good because at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, you still get to go home, you get to do whatever, and then, find the little things that bring you joy, which is why I really liked going to college, because the specific college, it's like a project based school. So within the first 6 months, you're kind of and you don't really do credentials like gen eds. I mean, I could get my bachelor's in 29 months, and you don't really do gen eds,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just mostly project based. So I really liked that, and I was succeeding very well because I was putting most of my focus in there so I could escape all the other bullshit. Plus, I was hurt. What was I gonna do? And then I got cross trained to be a 92 alpha,
Mm-hmm.
which is automated logistics. So we print out paperwork, and we update the system of status of vehicles, status of parts, blah blah blah, where
You're
they're
like
at
the clerk for the
being.
motor pool, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say, is the battery okay? Do we need to take a
Yeah.
break?
No, you're good. We're good to go.
Okay, okay,
Um.
okay. I just wanted to double check.
No, we're good. It's crushing it. Yeah. Um.
Sweet.
s- You're at that point. You're obviously probably leaning to get out at that point.
Yeah.
What? How
Yeah.
long do you have left till your contract's up?
Okay, at that point, I had about a year and 10 or 11 months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I still had
A
a
little
hot
bit.
minute. I
Yeah.
was right in that sweet spot, and then I got promoted to E4, and that was pretty cool. I was like, sweet,
Yeah.
did it,
Yeah. It's a good
it's
feeling.
automatic, but I did it.
Yeah.
I felt so proud of myself.
I'm not
And my motor
that bad.
sergeant, it's not that bad. Yeah, and my motor sergeant pinned me, and then people were like, "Oh, well, me and the motor sergeant are like fucking around." And I was like, "Yo, dog, if you really want to talk shit about me, you can say it to my face. Like, you don't have just because I'm a female, doesn't mean that I want to fuck everybody. Apparently, to the track record of the motor of the shop, I screwed 6 people, and I'm like, you really think I do that? I fuck off on the weekends. I go to the county. I go where there's land and quiet.
I
I don't
think.
do anything else.
I also think it's funny that it's just I'm not gonna fight that. There is a natural stereotype. When there's a female around wherever people talk shit, right? Guys and girls talk shit about each other. But for
Yeah,
some reason, females get this rep of being a Jezebel around the barracks, which there may be one or two that does it right, but like for the most
yeah.
part, no.
Yeah, it
But
doesn't like.
but the funny part is that guys are mostly the ones being the hoes. Like they're the
Yeah,
ones
for
running
real.
around. So it's that's I just always thought that was funny that they're like, yeah, she gets around. I'm like, well, motherfucker, you were with three different girls last week. Like, it's
Yeah, like
quit talking shit.
yeah, seriously. And then I'm like, y'all are just jealous because you want to be with me and you can't because I have standards now. Okay? I have standards now.
Yes.
Don't be an asshole.
Yeah.
You're already one off the list. I'm also with somebody, but I'm not going to tell you who they are because I don't want to get in trouble. So yeah, then it came and went, and then 2022, that's when I was starting to consult different orthopedic surgeons about surgery because they did a
Mm-hmm.
couple MRIs on my shoulder, but shoulders are sneaky. So you can have it positioned, but it'll look completely normal on the scan. And I was saying I was fighting every fucking doctor, and I was like, can you at least do a scope? Can you at least take a look? Because something is wrong, and I need to know what is wrong so I can get better. Physical therapy didn't help. MRIs aren't showing anything, but shoulders are sneaky. That's why you have to have this knowledge in the back of your mind because they try to do everything that they can to not treat you. At least that's how it is at Campbell. Unless if it's mental health reasons, and they'll just like throw pills at you. They're like, here you go, have fun,
Mm-hmm.
go away, get out of my face. I don't care what's wrong with you. At least that was how it was in the behavioral health that I went to. Um, so then I got my surgery, and oh geez, was it? It had to be no, it was March because it was scheduled for February because I was supposed to go to an Air Force base, the Wright Patterson one, in Bumfuck, Ohio,
Yeah.
um, to get it done. But the guy ended up getting deployed because that's when the whole Ukraine shit started popping up.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So he got deployed to go help support. And I remember I was so upset that day. I was so sad. I was crying at like in the shop, and I remember this one dude was like, "Hey, are you good?" And I was like, "I was supposed to get my surgery and the guy left, and now I don't know how long it's gonna be." Ended up only being a month later with some amazing doctor at Campbell. She's great. Colonel, oh my God, I remember her first name is Roxanne. And then every time I would see her, I would be like, singing the song, kind
Yeah.
of giving
Right.
it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course.
But she's great, and she fixed my shoulder for me. But turning out, nothing tore, like nothing. It was just like my labrum just kind of just popped out. It was
Yeah, I was
just
coming off of the collar or whatever.
yeah. I don't look. I'm not a doc, okay?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't really know exactly how to explain how
Yeah.
to
It was
explain it,
fucked.
but
Is the medical profession?
it
Is
was
the
fucked.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You're just so fucked up. And um, oh, I forgot to mention November of 21. That's when my husband got out. He was med boarded because he fell off. He actually fell off a helicopter and just tore his shoulder apart. So
Oh,
he was
okay.
already med boarded. He was already out by November of 21, which was great because we got our little house on some land, and we were just kind of living life. And he was transitioning over to the civilian realm, and he already had a job, and he seemed to just be doing much better, and that really pushed me to be like, I need to get out. And he saw everything that was going on with me and just how like sad and upset I was with the whole experience, and he was like, I think the best road for you is to get out no matter what
Yeah.
and try to push for a med board. And I said, great, awesome, I'll do. I had that thought in my head, and it's going to happen. I was like, this is what I want, and I will stop at nothing. Like, I do not care about anybody anymore. It is about me. I have this body, and in years down the road, when we decide to have kids and I can't pick them up and play with them, then I have to explain to them, hey, mom was stupid back in the military, and now I'm suffering the consequences because I can't, hang out with you and I can't play with you for a specific amount of time. And I was like, that really kind of dug into my brain. I was like, yeah, I need to take care of myself. Fuck all these people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, and so I was really trying to prioritize mental health. And then a new chief warrant officer came in, and that guy, if I were to send a picture of him to you, because I can Facebook stalk literally anybody, that's kind of scary to say, but I don't know who you're working with.
Yeah.
You can just kind of see that he's like extremely sexist and just hates women in the
Ooh,
shop.
yeah,
Oh, it's disgusting. And I ended up being I ended up being like the squad leader of all the clerks because number one, I knew my job very well. I I just tend to be a natural leader in some of these situations when I'm forced into them. And one girl was already going through a med board, and the other girl was just she was in the reserves, and she was just there. She just kind of did her job, really. Not a bad person at all. They were both great, and I remember I was telling the girl who was getting med boarded. I told her, I said, look, if you need anything from me, you just send me a message right away. I was like, I'm going to write you a recommendation letter, which I still have on my computer. I was like, I'm going to write you a recommendation letter so you're able to, you have a reference for, future jobs and to get into college. And, I'll take care of you. Whatever you need, I can help you with that because I want you to be successful when you're out. And she was like, you did more for me than any NCO that I've ever had. And I said, well, that's my job. You know,
yeah,
I'm supposed to help you and I'm supposed to take care of you guys. Even though I'm already about to go through the med board process. So
yeah,
because I remember I called, my doctor and I said, hey, I'm ready to, I was like, push for a med board. I'm ready. And she said, hold on, it hasn't been a year that you've been on restrictions yet. Wait till that year, and then I'll automatically put it in for you. So you'll get a phone call within the next couple of weeks. Said, great. Thanks. Um, so yeah, but this chief was just grade A dickhead. Every time something would, I get it. Every time something would like fuck up, I would be the front of it. It would be, hey, like you're fucking up at this. And I'm like, yo, dog, I have been doing this job for probably 6 months and I didn't even go to school for it. So whoever's name, ask them. It's not on
yeah,
me. Ask them. They clicked
yeah,
on something, asked, they decided to do something, make them accountable for it. And he was like, well, that's not really how it works. And I was like, wake the fuck up, chief. Hello. Yeah, fuck that guy. I'll get to that story in a minute. Mm. I remember one day I had to tell him, I was like, hey, I'm going to I was like, hey, I have a behavioral health appointment today. And so I'm gonna be gone from this time to this time. And he looked at me in the eyes and said, look, I know that women have their periods and everything, but that doesn't mean you need to
oh
go to
God.
behavioral health about it. And I
There's
said,
Yeah, I don't know if it's how dudes were raised or if that's how they like if I don't really know what happened, but there are some guys that just struggle to work and talk to women. Like
ugh.
it's rough.
Yeah. And then I told the motor sergeant, I was like, yo, he said this to me. What else is he saying to what is he saying to my soldiers? And he got a slap on the wrist. And I said, that was a good old fuck you to my face.
Yeah.
Cool. Um, yeah, and then I was like, cool, I'm just gonna go through the motions. Then one morning, I was already like, I was just so beaten up and I was so beaten down with everything. I was really just trying to put on a face. I honestly, most of it was me putting too much pressure on myself to be the best that I can be, but it's also the fact that rank just plays a huge role and the fact that I was in E4 and I was running the upstairs office and my job code was not 92 alpha. I was a Bravo.
Mhm.
So I didn't go to school for this. I'm still learning constantly and I'm getting yelled at because I don't know because that's not my fucking job.
Yeah, and that type of attitude just pushes people more out the military. Like, you think I'm getting out now? Like, why would I stay in if you guys are gonna act like this?
hmm Yeah, and what was it? Then one morning we were at the shop and we were trying to do a whole bunch of inventory for for the trucks, and there was this E6 total dick, man. I just, oh my God, I'm like, why do you have to be such an asshole? But whatever.
Mm-hmm.
um yeah, why do you have to be such an asshole? um but he one morning he was like, you need to check your trucks and you need to make sure that they have everything. And I was like, okay, okay, great, give me a moment. And so he was like, do you have a spare tire on your truck? Literally 5 minutes afterwards, and I was still trying to like talk to my soldiers, and I was like, hey, like we got to do this, like do what you can. If you need to sit down, you sit down. I understand some of y'all got some restrictions, no big deal, we'll work through it. It is what it is, might take a little longer, so be it. Stern PT, who really gives a shit? We're here until 5 anyway.
Yeah.
So um and so then he was like, or I went to walk over to the truck, and then he looked at me and he was like, so you never told me that you didn't have a spare tire, so now I have to open up a Connex and blah blah blah. And I looked at him and I said, I told you to give me a moment. I had to talk to my soldiers first, give him the rundown. And he was like, well, you still took too fucking long. And that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And I do not condone anybody for saying this, because this is a terrible thing to say to anybody. But I was so done, and I looked at him and I said, Staff Sergeant, blah blah blah. I'm not gonna out his name. I was like, Staff Sergeant, blah blah blah. You're the fucking reason why I want to kill myself.
Oh.
Walked out of the motor pool.
Oh no.
I walked out of those gates,
Yeah.
and there was even this one E5, good guy,
Yeah.
amazing leader. He was running after me, and he was like, Red, where are you going? And I was crying, and I was like, I am fucking done.
Yeah.
I'm over it. Like, I'm walking out of spite. I walked to the behavioral health building
Right. Like,
crying.
cause
I was like, yeah.
if people see that happen, right? Yeah, yeah, it's a
Mm-hmm.
terrible thing. But there's obviously a lot more shit going on than what the conversation was. People need to understand when that shit happens, there is so
Mm-hmm.
much more going on than just a
Mm-hmm.
simple conversation.
Right. And that's, some things are just like, some things just push people over the edge,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and then they think, oh well, you're just being a piece of shit. It's like, no, you need to think of other factors that other people aren't telling you about, because you're getting constantly yelled at. There's then you're already thinking, nobody is going to believe me. And it's really sad, but it's really just how it is. It's like, you need to build that trust and that camaraderie with your troops, so then they feel comfortable in talking to you, instead of just constantly being yelled at and berated and harassed for just like doing what they do and still learning on the job. Be a decent, I mean, really just be a decent person. You don't have to sit there and be an asshole all the time. And it was like, I was already at a disadvantage for already, I'm a chick at the motor pool. That's it. No, I mean, it's a male dominated field. And if you do not prove yourself every day, at least in my experience, you're already a piece of shit. So, um, but I come to terms with that, and I was like, whatever. So I walked over to behavioral health, and I was like, I was trying to, get more help. And this one captain, actually, she was really my saving grace, because I was like, I can't be there anymore. I can't be there anymore. I tried to talk to the platoon sergeant, who was an E7, and I was like, I need to be moved to the company to more administration things, because I cannot do this anymore.
Hmm.
I am feeling this way. I will share my feelings. I do not care. If I'm feeling one way, I'm gonna say it, because what's the point of hiding it? And um and she was like, okay, whatever, I don't really care. So when I finally confided in this captain, she was previous NCO, and so I knew that she understood. She was also a drill.
Hmm.
So she dealt with, she dealt with this. I'm pretty sure she dealt with this a lot. And she's been around the block. She was like, psh. Okay, she's like, cool. I'm gonna call your commander personally and tell him that you need to be moved, because this is ridiculous. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, here we go for the change. And so she called him I was in there and she was like, "Hey, I have this person here, a specialist right here, and she's like she needs to be moved for her own mental health purposes." And the commander was like, "What?" And he was just more surprised. He wasn't mad about it.
Yeah, the typically the
Um,
them commanders, they're not even tracking situations like that. So they're just like, what?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And he's like, "What?" And the woman's like, "Yeah, she needs to be moved because this and this and this is happening at the shop, and it's really affecting her. And like she's in this office crying and just having a meltdown because of this." And he he was like, "How come I didn't hear about this sooner?" "Yeah, no big deal. Like she can help me out, she can help whoever out, blah blah blah." Just kind of learn the reins a little bit. And I was like, oh my gosh, it was just like a huge weight off my shoulders. And then I was working at the company from then on until I got out because at that point, I already started the med board process like back in April or May. It had to be like end of April, early May. I have
Hmm.
all I have my I Love Me binder
Oh
down
yeah,
here that I
or yeah.
but it is what it is. But so I was already doing that. And the one NCO that was there, he was very nice. Um he was very nice and he understood. He was like, "Look, I understand that you don't really care anymore. So just, be where you gotta be. I'm not gonna bother you about it. If you're just gonna sit and chill here, you can sit and chill here. Just make yourself look productive." I said, "Great. That is the easiest thing that I can do." Just learn how to act productive. Um And so, yeah, then they ended up moving me to an outpatient hospital. So I was there from 8 a.m. to like 2 p.m. For group therapy. Let me tell you, that wasn't it. That was not
Yeah.
it. I would not go there ever again. And
Oh
there were other
yeah.
people that were there. I still talk to them today. Um, I still talk to them today, and they're great people. And I'm really glad that I made the connections that I did while I was there. But it was just really hard. It came to a point where I was just so scared to talk to people, and I was so like I was terrified to leave the house, and I just everything was changing constantly around me, and I couldn't take it anymore. And that also resulted in, with getting treatment and stuff like that now. And I'll get to that part, but uh yeah, so did that uh for 6 weeks, and I was so upset that I left because I didn't know what I was going to be doing. I was like,
Hmm.
I'm literally gonna just have a freak out. I don't want that to ever happen again because that's scary. And I remember one time I got out and I went back to the company, and I was already kind of going through it that day because my the therapist there was not a good therapist to me. Like every time I would confide in her in something, she would be like, "Okay," and then move on to a completely different
Ooh.
topic.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was like, "Girlfriend, what are you doing? What is happening?" Um, yeah, so I was like, "All right, cool, whatever." Uh, I'm just gonna write down all of my emotions because that's the only way I'm gonna be able to do it and figure this out. And so then the first sergeant, I remember I was writing and he looked at me and he said, "Dear diary, today was absolutely terrible." And I looked at him and he was like, "Oh, come on, it can't be that bad." And I was like, "You're an asshole. You're just a dick." It's like, are you serious? I was like, "You don't even know the half of it." First
Yeah.
time. Well, I didn't say anything. I just looked at him and
Right.
I was already like, whatever. And I was just really upset. It sounds like I was just like so upset the whole time, but I promise I found joy. I found
Yeah.
joy in life outside, doing my own thing. Um, but yeah, so just kind of went through the motions, and literally like after that 6 weeks that I was in that outpatient program, I got a call the next day saying, "I got your ratings. Come and sign some papers." And I was like, "Yes, I
Yeah.
am out of here." and I ended up getting 80%. Cool,
Oh,
great,
okay.
awesome.
Yeah.
I got more than I thought than I was gonna get. So I was like, I'm gonna look at the positives in this. I said, awesome, give me a few days, let me read through everything. And then I'll sign the papers and I'll scan them to you.
Yeah.
And he was like, awesome, you're great, this, that, and the other. And then they were trying to send me to JRTC again.
Yeah.
But
No
those people,
way.
the
No
Medboard
way.
people, yeah, because I was looking at regulations, but it only shows trade-off regulations, not ForceCom.
Mm-hmm.
So I was talking to the EO guy that is there. He's not really EO, but it was more of like your unit's trying to do some fuck shit, so he just basically tells them to stop,
Was it IG
pretty much.
or was it?
No, it's not IG. I don't remember exactly his title, but it was more the fact that like if if your unit is not being compliant with you and getting a med board, then
Oh,
he's just kind of there as like a buffer area to stand up for you and
I
say the
got you.
things that you can't say pretty much to
Yeah.
your, higher ups. And
He
and I
blocked
told him, I was
him.
like, hey, so this is I called him up like almost every week. I was like, hey, so they're telling me that I'm, going here and I don't think I should be because of this regulation, but I think it's just related to TRADOC. So what's it like for ForceCom? And it just asking him all the right questions because there was no way I was going to JRTC and just sitting in White Cell. There was no way. That wasn't happening at all. But then he was like, okay. He's like, yeah. He's like, okay, you know what? Let me do some research on this and I'll talk to your chain of command. And then my Pueblo, your Pueblo is basically like a representation of you
Mm-hmm.
during this whole process and just basically does all the paperwork for you so then you don't get lost in like translation or
Yeah.
anything
Yeah.
like that. They're just like more of a middle ground. And so every time somebody would say, oh well, you're going, I said, okay, you can talk to my Pueblo about that, like they're my lawyer. I was
Yeah.
like, you can talk to them about it. um then they told me that I wasn't going, and I said, knew it, knew it. I was like, oh yes, I'm out of here. And yeah, then I finally got my orders in either like September or October, took my terminal leave. And even with that, like I was just trying to apply to job after job after job. Because they teach you how to build a resume and stuff like that before you get out. They teach you how to, make sure that
Yeah.
you
All
do
the
things right,
classes.
but you
Yeah.
don't end up homeless. Yeah. And I was like, I already know how to do this. I was like, I already have a resume. I'm applying for job after job after job. And um, most of the graphic design stuff, it's like you have to have 2+ years experience,
Mm-hmm.
blah, blah. And I was like, I don't have anything. I was I was trying to get into an internship, but I just didn't have the time. They wanted somebody ASAP because the programs can only go on so long. And then finally, I was like shit face hammered because it was Friday night. I was gonna party it up, but I ended up applying to this job that I have now, and it's to be a court reporter. And so I thought, screw it, why not? Ended up getting a message from the president of the company who was like, "Hey, I would like to interview you." And I told him, "Oh, yes." I was like, "Let's go." Um, and yeah, so then I finally was riding out the wave, got my orders, was on terminal leave, clearing on terminal leave, which I cleared everything. I cleared the unit within a day or two,
Yeah.
super quick. I told them, I said, I am not playing around. I'm clearing this unit. Don't talk to me ever again.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't.
Don't talk.
Yeah. I'm gone.
Um, yeah, don't call me. Don't do nothing because I ain't coming. Okay. Because they were toxic like that. They would always call you, be like,
Yeah.
"Well, what about this news for work?" And I was like, "Fuck you. Let me have my time at my house." And yeah, then I cleared installation fairly quick too. It was just most of the buildings and stuff that have the addresses on the actual clearing paper. It
Mhm.
doesn't lead you to the right building, so
Right.
you're
Yeah. You
literally
gotta actually
running around
look
like
them
a
up.
chicken with your head cut off.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Every
But then I
post is
was
like
finally
that. I
out.
hate it.
Yeah, and I'm like, bro, figure it out. It's not that hard to just type up the right address. It is what it is. But then I was finally done. I was so happy. I was like, oh my gosh. And then I had this wonderful transition period where I had about a month off, a month and a half before I went up to Louisville to do my job training. And then I did my job training. And as soon as I got there, everyone was so nice.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really weird to me. And I remember I confided in the woman that was there who was just kind of showing me around the Louisville office. And I was like, you're so nice. Everyone here is so nice.
Yeah.
And and she's like, well, yeah. She thought it was weird.
Yeah.
And I was like, girlfriend, I came from a really toxic place. So this is just how it is. It's weird. And then even the president met me on the first day because we met via Zoom, but in person it's just so much different. He was kind of going over company policies and all of that. And then he was like, look, we actually respect your time and the time that you have off. I'm pretty sure that's more different than in the military. Just like we were just like shooting the shit back and forth. And I was like, oh my God, you have no idea. And we had a good laugh. And I'm the only vet within the company. So it's also like their kind of first go around of, everything that I have to do and everything that I'm going through and like not like going through, but more or less just getting used to because I've been out, since November of last year and it's already April and I'm still like trying to learn the reins of like why am I thinking like that? Like I took the good parts that I learned from the army of like if I have a job, I'm going to do it the best of my ability. I'm going to make sure that, I have all this motivation, I have the determination. But then it's also like I was like, you guys aren't yelling at me because I'm learning? That is crazy. Uh but yeah,
It was
now, yeah, go ahead.
no, it just seems like it was such a more wholesome experience once you got out to get to a job where you felt appreciated and stuff. It,
Oh,
you know,
yeah. And everything that I do, it's for a purpose. You're not doing dumb shit just to waste time,
mm-hmm.
And especially right now with me traveling everywhere for these jobs, I mean, it's always for a purpose. It's because and I get to work with attorneys. Number one, two-faced, but they're actually most of them are actually really great people.
Mm-hmm.
And you meet the people that and you swear them in and you hear some parts of their story and some of it is really sinister but you don't really it's just hilarious for some of the shit that people sue each other for. It's so petty and I'm like wow, some people are just really sue happy these days and then they get to like the depositions and the hearings and the trials if it ever goes to trial and you're like you literally spent more money trying to get X amount instead of just moving on with your life. Like,
Jeez.
seriously. But yeah, so now, I'm still going through the motions of my mental health and I this was even this week. I was on the phone with my therapist because I had terrible anxiety in the county that I'm at in this courthouse. Every time I look at somebody in uniform, I have a panic attack. And there was a lot of people in there that had uniforms on, and I was in such distress, and I can't be in places where it's super loud and super echoey, or I can't be in super crowded places either. It freaks me out.
Mm-hmm.
And even the bailiffs were looking at me like, "Are you okay? Do you need to go in chambers? Like, do you need to go into the judge's room and like, relax?" And I was like, "No, I'm going to be fine. Like, just have somebody talk, and I can type really quick." And there was this one dude too where he walked up to me and kind of like got in my face and I was like back up, back up,
Mm-hmm.
don't come at me like that because then I'm thinking like I'm gonna be a target. And yeah, that one of the clients that we had just made me so uncomfortable. He wasn't an attorney, he was just a guy. And he like walked up to me and he was like, hey. I was like, oh my God. Like please just back six
Mm-hmm.
feet,
Back up.
6 feet,
Do,
bro.
do,
Like
do
it,
you do,
bubble.
do you think all of that you know, obviously it's trauma induced stress and stuff. Do you
Hmm.
think um, all of it is from the military, or do you think there are other factors at hand, or would you say it's what would you say?
I'd say it's from the military for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because of, being roofied and all of that happening.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and also just dealing with some really terrible, well, I never really had any problem with the women in my unit other
Mm-hmm.
than that one platoon sergeant.
Yeah, just the one
But
you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah, but it was mostly, it was mostly men just like being it like they're just terrible people. And I understand like not everybody is like that,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still it's just the primal instinct of what did I do now? And it gets really
Mm-hmm.
engraved. And I remember like I texted my therapist that Monday and I just kind of gave her a rundown because it was that Friday with that hearing that I could not calm down. And then Sunday, um, my husband sent me an old picture of him in uniform smoking a cigarette. And I like went to make a joke about it. I was like, oh, you should have used that for your Tinder profile. And then and then And he thought that was so funny. He was like, "You actually set that up for me before we started dating." And I was like,
Jesus.
"Oh, I know. I know I did." And then it was like things were coming back and then I wasn't there. And he was like, "Hey, are you good?" And I said, "Hi, I need to sit down." And I'm trying to calm down. I'm like feeling like I'm gonna have a panic attack. And I felt my eyes watering and I was like, "What is happening?" And then I texted my therapist. I said, "Hey, this is what's been going on." And she said, "Call me as soon as you can." And I said, "All right, well, I'm gonna be in Nashville all day, Monday. So I'll call you when I'm driving back." And that case was already pretty hard too because it was a divorce case and the dad was a misogynistic asshole and said that women lose their value over time when they're not fertile. Disgusting. And I was like, what a
I'm not trying to
prick. And
laugh
I
at
just laugh,
it's not
I
saying
just
that
laugh
is
at those
just super
people.
fucked up.
Yeah, and I just laugh at those people because I'm like, you really think that you're gonna win this shit?
Yeah.
Just
What the
laughing the whole time.
fuck?
Yeah, and then I was driving back and she was like, "Has anybody told you that you might have PTSD?" And I was like, "No." And she goes, "You have all the symptoms for it. So we're gonna do these steps and then we're gonna make sure that it's put on your record." And I said, "I don't take that as a bad thing, but now it's also going through the hurdle of how do I tell my job, because I am the only vet, how do I tell my job that I'm working through this and just give me a little bit of grace, give me a little bit of grace because I'm working through a lot."
Mm-hmm.
So I'm currently doing that right now, but I love my job. I'm still in school.
Would you, would you
I love what
say?
I
Oh, sorry. Would you say that you, because of all the issues and the bullshit, would you say you resent the army, like joining it and stuff?
No,
No.
not at all. Not at all. And I was thinking about this last night too because I was like so nervous. I was so nervous. I don't know why. But I was like nervous and excited at the same time to talk to you because you're awesome. Like 10 out of 10.
Thank you.
Uh,
Thank you. I'm
yeah, you
just
want
a
me to
dude
like
asking questions. I'm just a dude asking questions.
um I don't say I resent it at all. I mean, everything happens for a reason, right? So that's just kind of what I think about it. I mean, if I didn't join, I wouldn't have met my husband. If I didn't join, we wouldn't have this amazing house on our podunk country shack and our land and our amazing dog, which she's probably up walking around wondering where I'm at. But um I mean, I don't resent it at all. I mean, I had to go through what I had to go through, and I feel like that made me a stronger person. And I'm taking all of the good qualities that I uh, I took all the good qualities that I ended up developing throughout the military, but then with those bad ones, I feel like that are bad. Especially with just dealing with everything that I had to go through. I'm currently working through those now so
Mm-hmm.
that I can finally put it all behind me. And that just comes with time. And I think that time time really does heal for sure. But I don't resent it at all. I'm thankful that I went. I know how to deal with those people now where I'm like, fuck you, man. Like I can just sit there and laugh at you, you
Yeah.
know? We don't have to see you ever again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much it. And just try to keep the people who I like super close and just kind of go on from there. So
That's
yeah,
good.
yeah,
Um, do you think if there was like a young female about to join, I'm gonna cater it specifically just that. But
yeah,
what advice would you give her? Just a basic, like probably the biggest takeaways, good or bad, you took from the army. Like, what would you tell her to do?
yeah. So I'm gonna kind of picture this as my younger self
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like if I were to know this, then I'd be more better mentally prepared when I got to my unit. Because basic and AIT, nothing. I was like, cool,
Mm-hmm.
great. But especially when I got to my unit, that's when a lot of shit went down. But I'll tell her, I'll say, look, if you're gonna join, I'm gonna lay out everything. I'm gonna say you're gonna have to do this, this, and this. And depending on what job that you have, let's say, same job as me, I'm gonna say, look, you're gonna deal. It just depends on the unit that you're at because I was just happened to be in a really shitty unit. I heard that there are some good units at Campbell that actually give a shit, but mine just didn't. And it's really, you know,
Mm-hmm.
they'll deal with it how they deal with it. It's
Yeah,
Campbell. Um, you know,
100%.
but but I said, look, if you're gonna either be in a good unit or you're gonna be in a bad unit, but if you're in a bad unit, just don't care what anybody else says. There's gonna be some assholes. Do not let it, you cannot let it bother you. It is not worth it. And if you need the help, you need to try whatever path that you need to take to try and get the help that you need. And if anybody wants to talk shit about it, you know what? They're just jealous because you're brave enough to actually ask for the help that you need. You're not going to sit there and let it simmer and then let it ruin you. Like, just it's okay to get help. And that's what I wish that somebody told me before I told myself, you need help. Like, do not be afraid to ask. And that, I think that's what I would tell her is like, hey, there's gonna be some assholes. Don't let them bother you. And if you need help, go and get it. Do not be afraid. And who cares what other people think, no matter what? Because it doesn't matter in the end. I don't see those people anymore. So why would I care? You know? So that's what I would tell her for sure.
I think that's good. I think that'll.
Mhm.
I think people need to hear it also for you're not. She's talking about getting help, but that doesn't just apply to mental health or anything. Like if you're have
That applies to physical
yeah,
too. I mean,
it applies to
yeah.
like financial help, spiritual help, like any issues you have going on. There's so many resources out there that like you just gotta swallow that pride, which is so.
Hmm.
I'll be the first to admit it was hard for me to do as a private. You gotta
Yeah,
swallow
it was
it.
hard for me too. Yeah,
Mm,
for sure.
if you go get that help, there's so many that make it so much easier for your life.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, that's a good.
Yeah,
The,
and the thing is too, for leaders as well, for any leader that listens to this, if you have to somewhat notice the symptoms of somebody that's going through it. You don't yell at them if their barracks room is messy. Some people are messy. I get that. I'm the same way. My office is a literal shit show filled with coffee cups and pans. But and the whole house, the rest of the house is clean. My space is just organized chaos. But um you have to start noticing signs that somebody's going through it and actually build the trust and just don't be shitty, really. Just actually care, be a good person and care and give your soldiers the resources that give all your soldiers the resources that you think that they will need so they will actually be able to get help. That was one part of my experience, is that I had to find all the resources myself.
mhm.
I was never given anything to for anything like financial, spiritual, physical, mental, anything that you need help and advice with, excuse me. But give your soldiers those resources because that's really going to help them in the end. And it's really sad. And that battalion, I think it was sometime in 2022. I think it was early 2022. There was actually a suicide in one of the companies, and that's when that company kind of really smacked down and said, wow, we really need to take care of our people. And it doesn't need to go to that point. I mean, if you could just be that one change in any person's life, no matter what, providing them resources, or just, sitting there and just having anybody vent to you. You don't specifically have to give advice, but just having somebody to confide with, and anything that's going on, physical, mental, whatever is happening in your life, that you just need somebody to listen to you and just try and see like what all they can do to help them succeed. It's just something that needs to happen, for more leaders, because I know there's good leaders. And I mean, listening to you, I believe that you're a good leader because you actually care. But for all the other people, it's like, hey, have your troops confide in you, because it's not worth doing a 15-minute obituary when you can sit on the phone for somebody for a couple hours, you know?
Yeah.
So
Sadly, I think a lot of people that are good listeners do it because they have needed that before and weren't able to. So,
yeah.
but yeah, you're absolutely right. Just
Hmm.
be that uh, not echo chamber, but basically, someone you can listen and they trust, and you don't even have to give your 2 cents because everybody wants to give their 2 cents too on how to fix problems. But you ain't always got to be the hammer to their nail. You could just, as long as you're listening and you say, I understand that sucks or whatever. Um,
Yeah,
me
yeah,
learning,
and
I'm learning that in marriage. You can, my marriage,
yeah,
like, not every time your spouse wants to hear, well, this is how we can fix it. Like, sometimes you just got to talk about how shit sucks.
yeah, and you just need to. I mean, honestly, there's some points where I get home, and even with him, I mean, we talk about everything. There's nothing that we do not hide from each other. It is what it is, and we sit there, we talk about it, we do our thing, and we confide, and we move on from there. And I remember I told him, I said, look, because he would always talk about like bitching about something at work for hours, and I was like, okay, look, talk about it for 15 minutes. If it does not come up in those 15 minutes, it's not important. Let it go.
Yeah,
I understand that you need to vent,
that's
but
healthy.
vent to me
Yeah.
for 15 minutes. And then guess what? You're not at work anymore. You're
Hmm.
home. You're in the Peace Palace. Relax. Grab a beer. Dinner's ready. I'll make you a plate.
Yeah.
And I'm the same way too. And after we did that too, it really helped, because then I was like, dude, you're not at work anymore. Stop talking about it. Like, I don't want to hear it. And there's some points where you're just like, I just want to relax, you know? But even a good piece of advice that I got from my best friend, who I love so much. They're in Colorado. But they were saying that you can either tell this to a person, you can either be a chair, be a dog, or be a person. And so when I talk to you, if you're just going to be a chair, just sit there. Just sit there. Just listen. And if you're going to be a dog, sit there, listen, give them a hug, and tell them that everything is going to be okay. And then if you're a human, that's when you're asking for the feedback. So most of the time, if I'm venting to them about some fuck shit that happened, to all the tea and the drama that I have in my job,
Yeah.
or like something like, let's say something happens and I don't know what to do, and I just need your horseshit opinion. I need your horseshit opinion. I'm like, I need you to be a human. Give me your horseshit opinion. Or, hey, I need you to just be a dog right now. Listen and just say, hey, everything's gonna be good. Or, hey, I just need you to be a chair. We do that back and forth with each other all the time. And even if they tell me, hey, I just need you to be a dog, I'll just say, as soon as I start the call, I'm like, so I'm just gonna give you my horseshit opinion. You can take it or leave it. I know that you don't want it right now, but I'm just gonna throw it out there.
Yeah.
It's just
I
something that we
have to
do.
I have to say it. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to say it. It's in my brain. I have goldfish brain, and I'm not gonna remember it
Yeah.
as soon as we move on to something else. I love them. I love them so much. We've known each other since, oh my gosh, I was like 15, and I'm 22 now, and um yeah, I love them so much. They're absolutely amazing. 10
Yeah.
out of 10 would recommend having a friend like that. And then they're even writing like a buddy statement for my therapist of like how I was before, how I was during, how I was before the army, how I was during the army, because everything along the lines is affecting me like that now, to actually help with getting the proper help and directing to me in the right channels to actually, get treatment and everything like that. So love them so much. They even help me a lot these days.
Um I had a question. I have two questions, and then we'll
Yeah.
wrap it up. One was, you know, me and you both obviously were well familiar with the mental health stuff, and I think we both know it's pretty rampant in the military.
Yeah.
Um, do you sometimes think it's rampant because of, I don't know if it's, I don't want to say misdiagnosis because I'm going to sound like an asshole, but like, do you think sometimes it's overanalyzed in some people, especially in the military, or just in general the world, or do you think it's a pretty level field right now, or it's not talked about enough, or what's your
Um,
thoughts on that?
okay. Specifically, you can say misdiagnosis because you can say misdiagnosis. You don't sound like an asshole. At least to me, you don't sound like an asshole. Maybe somebody else might be like, oh, it's not that. Oh, that's your
Yeah.
opinion. Cool. Um, it, Specifically when you're going through a med board process, they misdiagnose you. Like they diagnosed me with adjustment disorder with anxiety, and that's not a fucking diagnosis. I'll
Mm-hmm.
give you that right now. But they just did that so I could get out because DOD, if you're going through the med board process, they're trying to push you out as fast as possible. But then the VA is like, wait a minute, that's not right. You need to no. They have this, and this, and it's just more stuff for them to do, and then them trying to like yell at the DOD, being like, why don't you just diagnose your people properly? But honestly, I think that like in the civilian realm with mental health, it's becoming a more regular conversation because I think especially with the younger generation, they're not afraid to say how they feel, especially like it's not like dumb shit, like it's not dumb shit, honestly. It's not like, oh, well, this person yelled at me today and I feel really shitty about it. Okay, cool. You made your bed, lie in it, get over it. That's just my opinion. But
Mm-hmm.
um and I'm pretty sure a lot of people can say that now, where it's like, hey, you joined the army, like you made your bed, lie in it. This is just the experience that you had, and you were just like depressed all the time because you made it happen. You can think that way. That's cool. I'm okay with that. I can see that point too. Um, but especially in the military, I think that when you talk about mental health in the military specifically, it's just really taboo. And people are just kind of hush hush about it because it's more of like a forbidden topic that you can't talk about because I don't, man, I really wish I knew the answer, but it seems like to everybody it's just super, super taboo in the military. But the fact that
Yeah.
some people are just like not afraid to go get the help that they need, and I think that there are more people that are, being somewhat more understanding about it. I'm not going to say like old army people that have been in for 20 plus years, they're not really going to understand because they're gonna be like, well, I was in Desert Storm and I fucking shot people and blah blah blah. Great, but there are more things happening here in Garrison that should not be happening at all, and you never got to experience that because you were deployed, and you actually had people that gave a shit because you didn't know if you were coming home.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was never deployed, and I mean, you could go back and forth on that debate all you want to, but I'm going to say, hey, even though I was never deployed, I still had a heart. We all have hardships, and it's just not talked about enough. And I think that if more people um, in the behavioral health sector actually cared and actually put forth the effort in their jobs, will instead of just going through the textbook stuff, actually sit there and try and talk to somebody and actually like pretend like you actually care or or care, it doesn't, you do you, then I think that that'll be better. But I just think it's super taboo to talk about. You
Oh
say,
yeah.
oh well, I'm anxious, I'm depressed, and everyone's like, haha, okay, and then they move on to the next topic, and you're like, hello,
Yeah.
I'm literally telling you I need help and I need somebody to listen to me, but they're like, oh, huh, okay, that's like a really uncomfortable topic to talk about, but we're just going to push past that because it is considered taboo, instead of in the civilian realm where everyone's like, hey, are you okay? Notice that, something like I feel like that something's been wrong lately. You're not acting like yourself. And then you're like, what is happening? Why do you care?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a hard
Um,
it's a, I could go on for hours about that situation in the military. Yeah, but it
Yeah.
just, yeah, I always wonder if people see it as that way. So that's an interesting take. So I appreciate that. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
it's yeah, it just needs to get talked about a lot more probably, and they're just the doctors need a different status quo for check-in because it just seems like it's not the greatest. Like you said, it's just not. This check the box shit doesn't work anymore. So I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't. And people lie. I mean, I lied. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I lied on the check the box thing because, typically when I would get home, apparently this is considered being an alcoholic. It does not. I had an alcoholic dad. I don't get shit faced trying to go to work. I don't
Mm-hmm.
do that. But I told, even when I went to the outpatient program, I said, I have 2 drinks a night, two
Yeah,
drinks
that's
a night to
considered.
relax.
Yeah, it's considered
It's considered
alcoholic.
being an alcoholic. So I was in the substance abuse group, but I said, look, I don't
I'm
get
not an
drunk to go
alcoholic.
to
I'm
work.
just having a beer. Yeah.
I'm just having a Bud Light hard soda just to relax. And if I don't want one, I don't have to have one. That's not me being an
Yeah.
alcoholic.
Yeah, I hate that
Um,
questionnaire thing. I hate it.
oh my God. And it's like, how many drinks do you have per night? And I
Hmm.
fucking lied on that shit.
Yeah,
I
everybody
was
lies
like,
on it
one to two a
because you're
month.
gonna be called an alcoholic. Yeah, I'm not going to ASAP. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I mean, the check the box shit doesn't happen because people lie, actually try and build the trust and actually care. I understand numbers are numbers and numbers and numbers. Who fucking cares? You're not just a number anymore. You're a person. You want to be treated as such.
Yeah, I heard a
That's also another thing that sucks too, is that you're treated as a number. Everyone's replaceable. Well, you really want to think that when them as a person is replaceable, that's kind of degrading to
yeah.
somebody's morale.
Well, also, I heard a good quote the other day that drinking, a lot of people or drinking is not a problem. It's a solution because there's a whole lot more going on to the
Yep.
drinking. Like that's a symptom. That's not a like typically it's not a disease, right? Sometimes it is,
Right.
like the alcoholism and shit. But typically it's just a symptom of someone suffering inside, that hasn't received the proper help. And then they
Hmm.
develop the alcoholism because of it. But
Yeah, for sure. For
yeah,
sure. And
those are
you realize that when you're in the substance abuse group, or for some people that just say, I can't handle this without a bottle. I
yeah,
can't sit and talk about this without a bottle. And I'm like, that is literally becoming your coping mechanism because the feelings are just they're too overwhelming. And like you said, it's not the problem, it is a solution. And I think that once we start coming to that point where you actually listen and not just go through the statistics of everything, because
mm,
every person's circumstance is completely different. So I think that once we actually start confiding in the actual person and not just confiding in a lot of the statistics, then I think that there could be a change. And I think that there could be a change in the actual mental health field, especially in the military, and not consider it super taboo to talk about, for sure. So
yeah. All right. My last thing for you. We always
Mhm.
ask our favorite movie, motivational, get you going. What's your like go to?
Oh my gosh, I have a lot. um, oh my gosh. That's such a hard question
I always
to
ask it.
answer.
Yeah, everybody struggles at the end because I always ask it. they're like,
Yeah.
they're like, what is this?
Um, sometimes, oh my gosh, sometimes it's Super Troopers because it's so dumb.
uh,
Um, sometimes it's oh my goodness, it's not Battlefield, it's Battleship, right? The Navy movie with the aliens. I think that's Battleship. That one's so much fun to watch.
oh
I'm like,
man, I know what you're talking about. I don't think I've ever watched it because it looked cheesy as hell. But I was
oh
like,
no, it's really no,
uh,
it's really good. Or oh my God, I literally cannot. I love Aladdin. I'm like it's such
the Disney
it's
adult.
so
Yeah,
good. Yeah, the old one. The
yeah,
new one,
yeah. The old one.
trash.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
old one, yes,
yeah.
10 out of 10.
No, old one's good. I get my
Um,
kids to watch it now. They love that shit.
oh yeah, I'm like when we have kids, I'm like, nope, it is just the OG Disney. The OG Disney.
Yeah.
Um, not the new shit because the new shit it's too political.
Yeah.
Like
Uh,
not dealing with
yeah, I'm trying to
it.
show all of them, all mine, all the old ones, and it's only my daughter that likes it now because the princesses. I'm like, no, you guys
Yes.
gotta. It's okay. I promise. They're good. Uh,
Like, just forget about the political shit for like 2 seconds. Stop watching the news for two
yeah,
minutes.
yeah,
It's too sad.
yeah. Um. Well, Bryn, I really appreciate you coming on. This was a real special episode, because you told us a lot about yourself, a lot of personal shit, and I appreciate that. Um.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't want anybody to feel alone. So I thought, but you know what? It's even though it's super hard for me to talk about, and I was even like anxious talking about it at this sort of level, but I think that it's really good to just share experiences and just make people feel like that they're not alone. It's a real pleasure talking to you. Like I really hope that we can do this again and like, confide in a good friendship because you're just you're just awesome to talk to and you don't sit there and judge, you sit there and you listen. You're being you're being a dog,
yeah,
so to say.
I got a lot of practice. No, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the whole point of this thing. I'm just trying to listen to people's stories and see what's going on with them. And with you,
Yeah.
we got a very robust picture.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I think doesn't get talked about enough that needs to. So I
Mm-hmm.
really, really appreciate that.
Yeah, of
And you, oh,
course.
for sure, we can do this again sometime. For sure.
Oh my God, I would love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, we're gonna get off here then. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank
Guy,
you.
yeah, guys that were listening, thank you so much for listening. Please like, listen, and follow. Give a rating, whatever. Thanks for listening to Why We Serve.